Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. We are live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. As always, this show is brought to you by DraftKings. And every single Friday at this time, our buddy, the great Adam Chernoff, joins the program with a Simple Handicap podcast. Free write-ups during the football season with the Right Angle Sports app as well. He's on X at Adam Chernoff. Good morning, pal. How you been?
Good morning. We're running out of games, guys. Only 7 to go, so it's down to the wire.
So typically, it's tough to have an opinion on the games when we get down to only 4 for a weekend. But you have like an opinion on all of them this weekend, which is good. And let's start with the early game that we have tomorrow. And as I said before the break, the 2 games that we have on Saturday, both home teams laying 9.5 points. In the early game, too many here for Baltimore or not enough?
Not enough. I was actually surprised it ended up opening south of 10. And I think it kind of reflects what the similarities are between both of these Saturday games. We have the 1 seeds off extra rest playing teams that have young quarterbacks off of perfect weekends last week. And so it's been an interesting kind of thing to watch online. Is I feel like personally there's been more sentiment made for the dogs and against teams getting the bye, which is typically the biggest home field advantage you see of the entire season. So in this game, I like Baltimore laying anything less than 10. And I believe it's going to come from the defensive side as the big advantage for them. Mike Macdonald, defensive coordinator, has seen C.J. Stroud twice, way back in the debut in the regular season, but also back in college when he held Ohio State, when he was working with Michigan, to their lowest offensive output of that entire season just 2 years ago. And now this is going to be round 3. And I know, Pauly, I heard you talking about it. Say, hey, week 1 doesn't matter. What happened in college doesn't matter. And I get that. And I would say, okay, we know who Bobby Slowick is. He comes from the Shanahan system. Baltimore has played 2 teams that run that same system, Mike McDaniel and the 49ers. Back on Christmas Day, Mike Macdonald had the answer for both of those offenses. So he has shown that he can shut down this scheme. I think that matters a ton. I think this is a big step up in class for Stroud and this Texans offense going on the road to play this defense. And if there's any little wind hanging around, we're seeing 15 to 20 miles per hour. That's going to hinder some of those deep shots Houston's been so effective with. So for me, I like Baltimore in this game at less than 10. I think it should be 10 or higher.
Okay, I wanted to follow up here then with the Marlon Humphrey injury. He's out of this game. When he missed the first 3 games this year, he played against C.J. Stroud. The Ravens did. C.J. Stroud's first ever start. Week 2 was Joe Burrow, not close to 100%. Week 3 was Anthony Richardson, third ever start. They allowed in those 3 games 184 yards per game to wide receivers, which over the full season would rank 31st in the NFL. So you're saying like the wind overall, McDonald as well, that's going to outweigh Humphrey being out of this game?
I think the familiarity, it's going to be a huge loss. So there's no getting around that. There's no question. You don't have Humphrey back there. It's a big loss for sure. I think a couple things negate it. One, if there is the win, like you said, I think that is going to impact deep balls for both sides. So I think that's going to kind of narrow the game down offensive wise. We're also, I think, for me personally, really leaning on the scheme of McDaniel and what that has done against these other offensive schemes that are so familiar. I think that matters a ton. And just the way that he is able to be so multiple with his coverages. When you look at the Ravens, dead split league-wide, man zone coverage, he mixes it up so well. I think he can scheme around that loss. And so no question not having him out there is significant, but I really, really high on this Ravens defense this week.
Yep, all great points. And it was a phenomenal job last week, but Stroud did it against the worst defense in the league, at least on road games. How bad Cleveland's been on the road. Same thing in the night game, right? Love was awesome. They blew out Dallas, the public team. The Dogs are going to get support going against the 1 seed. What do you think of San Francisco also laying almost 10?
So it's a very similar handicap for me. I like San Francisco at less than 10 in this game. And it was another game that I was surprised to see open on the other side. And I can't help but think there's quite a big bump being given here for the Packers, as there is the Texans, based on what we saw them do last week. To me, the difference in last week's game was how Dan Quinn and the Cowboys were unwilling to adjust, which was pretty crazy to see. Green Bay ran a ton of plays from heavy personnel packages, 2 tight ends or more on the field. gave Love a little bit of extra time in the pocket. And then LaFleur, I mean, he just embarrassed Dan Quinn with some of his play calls and the routes that he was running. And the crazy thing was Dallas kept 5-6 defensive backs on the field for the majority of the game.
Yeah.
They did not adjust at all to defend what Green Bay was having success with on offense. And the Packers just ran it on them all game. And so it was bizarre to me to see Dan Quinn in that game not do anything to adjust. I think it made the Packers offense look better than they are. And what I see as a big matchup disadvantage this week is if Green Bay is going to operate from those same personnel groupings, San Francisco's top 5 against all of it. One of the best linebacker coverage units in the entire NFL. If you get a situation where they're trying to do the similar, where they've had so much success this season, I don't think it is going to work nearly as much as it did last week. What's crucial here is San Francisco ends up getting the lead. I think, Pauly, you said pre-show, Shanahan said he's going to defer. We know LaFleur wants to get out and get the ball. He's been great on scripted plays early. Getting the lead is so vital for Green Bay because it keeps their ground game alive, where San Francisco's a little bit vulnerable. If the 49ers get that early stop in the game, end up getting the score, and Green Bay has to play catch-up, they're not catching up. And so I think this early portion of the game is so vital. But for me, I still like San Francisco.
How big is the Jair Alexander news that we get today on the injury report? And I'll tie that into your level of concern overall with Brock Purdy.
Anytime that I see a guy like Alexander labeled as hopeful to play, that's pretty concerning. We're seeing the Bills throw around hopeful quite a bit. And so I think that that's lending everything that is being said to make me believe he's less likely to play than he is likely. You're probably looking at a 60-40 no shot based on how everything's being worded right now. That news is going to be significant because if you take Alexander out, they already lost a big name at outside linebacker last week in the Dallas game. There's some pieces missing. You drop your top corner, you lose a little bit of run support. McCaffrey's going to have a monster game, and Purdy's going to be very comfortable in the pocket.
Talking to Adam Chernoff, Follow the Money, Pauly and Mitch Veason, the Sports Betting Network. He's with the Simple Handicap podcast. Does a great job. Follow him on X. We love talking to him every Friday during the football season. Professional sports bettor Frank B is concerned. You're concerned. We'll get the player perspective coming up with Mike Pritchard. What do you think of Ben Johnson with 4 scheduled interviews in the next 2 days?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
4 interviews. I wish I knew what this had an impact on for these games where coordinators did this. I don't have an answer for it, and it's something that's pretty hard to go back and look at. But I'm going to be curious to hear what he has to say coming up after this, because I saw that news and I'm like, how can you do 4 interviews within 48 hours of kickoff on Sunday? It has to matter somewhat. It's the biggest job of your life.
Yep.
I don't know what it entails time-wise, but man, I think that matters when you have to do 4 of them within 48 hours of kickoff.
Okay, I agree. 7 showed yesterday, back down to 6.5 here at Circa. What do you think of the early game and Detroit?
I like the Buccaneers getting the points. I think defensively what they do well, generate pressure, bring a lot of blitzes. I think that can work against Jared Goff. The other thing they do very well, especially now that they're healthy, is defend the run. The Eagles may be a dead team. That's a very good offensive line up front. And the Buccaneers were pushing them around. And so if that takes away this run support that the Lions have had and working for them so well over the last couple of months, I think that's really going to hinder the Lions' offense. And if Goff is forced to throw a little bit more, I think the Buccaneers can get pressure on him. On the other side, the Lions' defense, probably the worst unit on the field, offense or defense, in this game. And you're asking me to bet on that defense to cover nearly a touchdown? Seems like too much to me in this spot. So I like the Buccaneers getting 6.5 here.
In these first 3 games then, any player props that you like?
I would look at Odell Beckham Jr. receiving yards over in that Baltimore game. He's in the low 30s. He's going to be the main guy for Baltimore in the pass game outside of Zay Flowers. I think that price is going to be too short. McCaffrey numbers are all through the roof, but against that Joe Barry defense, I think McCaffrey can find a lot of success too. So those are 2 guys that I would look at specifically.
Okay, we have 2 minutes here in this segment. Do you want to hit the Bills-Chiefs here, or do you want to save it?
Let's do it.
Okay. Then it is, I'm looking right now at the screen, Bills are -3 even money. Got to pay the 20 cents, obviously, with the Chiefs at one spot here in town and nationally. That's at Caesars and William Hill. 2.5 other spots. Are you interested at all in the 3?
Definitely interested in the 3 with Kansas City. It's been lingering 2.5, but if you can see the 3, got to take the Chiefs in this one. We saw them switch their offense before the Cincinnati game. There was a meeting done by the team. They switched around the offensive focus, simplified play calls. The emphasis has been getting out of the huddle very quickly, getting to the line of scrimmage with around 15 seconds left on the play clock. They've had their 2 quickest games snap per play in the last 2 weeks. They've also had 2 of their biggest offensive outputs. Last week against Miami, biggest offensive output in more than 3 months. I think that matters a lot. I don't think that that's fully being accounted for in this game. And obviously the Miami injuries mattered a lot. As it looks right now for Buffalo, my predictions would be Benford, Bernard, as well as Rapp and Spector, both miss. So you're getting multiple key losses at the linebacker and defensive back level. And Kansas City is just going to the guys they trust. Pacheco, Kelsey, Rice, all of those guys thrive over the middle of the field, and that's where the Bills are going to be hurt most. I saw Mason Rudolph all of a sudden look very comfortable in the pocket once those guys started going down. I think Mahomes looks the same. I think Kansas City offensively shows better. I have very few questions about their defense, and getting 3 points here on the road, I think, is too many going into Buffalo.
Excellent breakdown. I want to ask you coming up next, too, about looking for player props, because you've brought this up a couple of times on the show and other stuff that you do as well, looking for player props in games for some of these games. And I gave out a couple of examples earlier in the show. I'll run that by you, and you're also going to rank the remaining quarterbacks in the playoffs and coaches. That's coming up next year on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting
Let's
Network.
Do it.
You got to check out the all-new VSiN.com. We have a fresh look, enhanced navigation, mobile-first focus. Time is money in sports betting, and the site's pages have been built to load quickly. Check out the new VSiN.com today. Any questions? VSiN.com/FAQ. VSiN.com for any questions you have. A double shot of Adam Chernoff. Great to go over all these games here this weekend. Back to what we talked about, and is it a smokescreen with Shanahan about I'm going to defer if I win the toss? We know LaFleur wants the ball. A guy, a pro bettor took 3 in the first quarter with Green Bay. Is that the better bet, or no score first 5 minutes?
The no score first 5 minutes is really interesting as we were talking about it. I think we're going to see one of 2 things from Shanahan. Obvious answer, but the question is, after these defer comments, is it a smokescreen and he's going to take the ball and just run it down the field with McCaffrey? Or is that just him saying that he really trusts his defense in this matchup because he's so familiar with LaFleur and the offensive scheme that the Packers run that he knows that he has the advantage, and that's really going to upset what the Packers are doing? And so on one hand, I agree with the pro that I know that took the Packers +3 in that this is probably not accounted for in the first quarter markets. But on the other hand, I don't think that Shanahan is naive enough of a coach that he just came out and said that without knowing just how slanted things have been for the Packers in the first quarter and how much that matters to LaFleur in this offense. And so I would tend to lean with the better coach here and think Shanahan has something planned.
Okay, so I brought this up before you came on, and these are kind of difficult to find, although they are becoming more available as time goes on here. And that is live in-play wagering with player props. And you've talked about this on this show going back now several weeks. A couple of examples I brought up, like if the Niners game gets completely out of control and they're winning that game, the McCaffrey angle with rushing attempts might be something. But also I would look at maybe backup running backs there to get some attempts, or maybe anytime touchdown for like a Mitchell or maybe even a Mason. Another thing would be obviously the Love passing attempts over. But the Buccaneers-Lions game might be the best example. And that would be if either one of those teams gets up 14 points, whatever that number is, on paper, it's going to be a struggle for both offenses to run the ball. That, to me, says I got to be on the team that's down, either Goff or Mayfield, betting attempts, completions, yards, over all of it in play. What say you?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think a couple things that are important. And like I love some in-play props. I really enjoy betting it. I hope it's something that becomes more widely available. First of all, there's so many good projection sites out there. Have a projection number pregame for the guys that you think you might be looking at. Just have it in the back of your mind because that's going to matter a ton. Second is going to be thinking about how the game state is playing out. Just kind of get in your mind the tendencies of these teams. If they're trailing, do they go super pass heavy? If they're leading, do they go super run heavy? That's really important too. Something I would say for teams that are trailing to watch out for, especially if it's late in the first half or late in the second half. You see a lot of defenses go into off coverage. That allows for a lot of check down opportunities to running backs. Saw the Eagles against the Buccaneers down a ton. They got Swift involved. That's typically for those running back receiving props that so many people like to bet. Late in halves when there's a deficit, that's really when you see guys start to stand out and get more involved out of the backfield. Something else I would say, too, is try to figure out who the 2-minute drill guy is for each team. What I've noticed over this year, looking into it a lot more, is a lot of teams have a standout receiver that tends to be their big play option that they force targets to in the 2-minute drill. And that can be extended out to the last sort of drive of the half. But for example, I'll go to my favorite team, the New York Jets. Garrett Wilson, in those situations, his target share jumped to 40+%, where it was high 20s for the season. Every team has one of those guys that they really rely on. And so watch out for that as well. A lot of fun angles to look at. Mitch, I agree with you in the Detroit-Tampa Bay game. There's been a lot of sentiment for Rachaad White from other professionals in his rushing attempts this week, just because it's expected that the Buccaneers are going to be trailing. That's going to mean Baker Mayfield's throwing a lot more passes. So as that may play out, you might want to look at Mayfield attempts. A lot of different ways you can take it. Sort of tough to talk pregame about what to expect because you got to wait for the scores to play out, but it's a very fun market to look at.
No, that's great. And I'm like you. I hope more books are going to start to offer this, and it becomes where you can bet all this stuff here down the road. And I think we'll get there at some point. Let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Adam Chernoff. We tried to do this earlier in the week. We ranked our best remaining coaches in order from 1 through 8 in the playoffs and quarterbacks. I found the quarterbacks much more difficult than the coaches. Because how much weight you put in this year compared to previous years, success they've had going back 3, 4, 5 years now. How did you look at it, and how did you rank the quarterbacks?
Okay, do you want me to go rapid fire and throw them off, or how do you want me to reveal it?
You can go reverse order and give us a nugget on each one if you would like.
Okay, so I went looking at things right now. If I was in the position of building a team looking 5 years out, and I put the 5-year cap so it doesn't impact any age, we get what we get. So reverse order from 8 to 1. Baker Mayfield, number 8. I think we kind of know what Mayfield is at this point compared to the other quarterbacks in the playoffs. Just doesn't have the same resume, nor do I think the same potential. Jared Goff, number 7. Another guy. I think we know what he is at this point. He's benefited from 2 of the best offensive play callers during his tenure with the Rams and now with the Lions that have elevated him up in a big way. I think he's a firm number 7. Stroud and Love would be 6 and 5. I put Stroud behind Love only because Stroud has had the benefit of playing some very easy defenses in a very easy division for the duration of the season. I think what Love has done, as well as the experience sitting for a few years and learning in this offensive system, I think that matters a little bit more. Both amazing quarterbacks. They've done great. I would have them 6 and 5. I have Purdy at 4. This was the hardest one to rank of all the quarterbacks and the coaches. I think you can make a case that he's 4. I think you could probably make a case that he could be as low as 7. I'll put him in at 4 just because he's had some amazing games this season, albeit also aided in a big way by the scheme. And then it's Lamar, Allen, and Mahomes, 3, 2, 1. I think Lamar annually is one of the most underrated quarterbacks. He always gets criticized for his pocket passing. This year, when he's kept in the pocket, he's 8th in passer rating. So you have a choice when you're defending him. You try to keep him in the pocket, the old school mentality. You're getting a very good pocket passer throwing against you. If you're unable to keep contained, you get one of the most athletic players in the entire league that's burning you. I think he's always underrated. Allen, you can criticize the interceptions, but when you look at how costly those interceptions have been in terms of EPA lost per interception thrown, Allen's right around 13th for the season. And so there's been a lot of long down and distance throws into the end zone. They look much worse and much more penal than they actually are. And then number 1, easy decision with Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Tough. It's fascinating. Every guy on there is a first-round pick, but Purdy, and every guy's under 30. So how did you're a Jet fan. You got Bowles 8. How'd you look at it for coaches?
I thought coaches were really easy. You're right.
Yeah.
Bowles is number 8. He's as predictable as they come, has done the same thing for 20 years. It's the same guy every single time with the game plan. We know what he is. I have D'Amico Ryan 7, and that may draw some oohs and ahs because he's maybe going to be in line for Coach of the Year. I think that when you look at the aggression and the pass rate over expectation and what Ryans has potentially limited this Texans offense to at times with how much they focused on running the ball and being so conservative in spots, I think it makes him a little bit of a phony in terms of the sharp play calling he gets appeased for. I think that's more Bobby Slowick than anything else. I got McDermott at 6, defensive guy who's meddled in the offense for a number of years.
Yeah.
I think held back the Bills at times, some late game play calling. You look at the 21-second or the 13-second game, whatever it was against Kansas City. I think there's more mistakes you can look at that he's made that he deserves to get high praise for in that spot. I'll go Campbell next. I think he's a guy that's really impressed the last couple of years. I've changed my tune on him. One of the few guys that gets criticized for being too aggressive, which I think is a great thing in 2023. I'll go LaFleur at 4. Showed he can do it with Rodgers, showing he can do it with Love and a very young team. He's a great offensive mind. I'd have him at 4. Then I go Harbaugh, Shanahan, and Reed. I think Harbaugh, every single year, he's prepared for every game. He's always prepared press conferences when he's in media, speaks like he's a great analytical mind, has a fantastic coaching staff around him. I think that can't be discounted. I have him at 3, Shanahan 2, the best play caller of our era, next to Andy Reid, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL history. I think that he's a firm number 2, and then it's an easy decision with Andy Reid at number 1. As good of a play designer, play caller, game planner, offensive mind that we've seen, at least in my lifetime. Easy number 1 decision, especially with the Super Bowl success too.
Great stuff. Love having you on. Best of luck this weekend. Are you on your way to Buffalo? Is that correct?
Heading to Buffalo. Going to be hopefully a game to remember for sure. I saw them play a couple years ago in Kansas City and looking forward to this one. So
awesome,
it's a stormy ride to Buffalo, but we'll get there.
Enjoy it, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the games this weekend.
Yep,
and a great call to take Bills futures when they were 6-6.
Yep. Mike Pritchard on the show up next. Played in the league for 10 years. Ben Johnson interviewing for 4 jobs today and tomorrow. How big of a deal is that?
DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs. New customers can bet $5 on any game, get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the app now. Get up there, Vermont. Use code Vegas only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Code Vegas, incredible props, everything you want. The crown is yours at DraftKings. Our friend Mike Pritchard joins us now from the network. Does a great job, played 9 years in the NFL, first-round pick, MVP team of the championship team at Colorado, kind enough to get up early. We have to lean on you here. Thanks for coming on. How big of a deal is this that Ben Johnson has 4 interviews in the next 2 days?
Well, it's a big deal, and great to be with you guys as well. It's a big deal because, these coaching opportunities, they don't come that often. And certainly if you are in this wave of coaching hires, you want to put your best foot forward. So you're definitely trying to do that. We talked off air a little bit about Eric Bieniemy, right? I mean, how many coaching cycles has he been involved in? And certainly how many times has he been interviewed for head coaching situations, but not being able to get it? Mm-hmm. But yet, Eric, doing his job, and certainly with the combination of him and Andy Reid, they were able to put together a game plan and not be distracted. And okay, let's go on and win a Super Bowl. These guys are younger, though. These guys are in these coaching cycles and these coaching hires, and they're trying to put their best foot forward. Absolutely, for advancement in their career, they're going to do that. Now, can they manage the game planning, the important week that they have, the preparation, the attention to detail, and to make sure that this game plan is solid? Can they imagine that? And then also on game day, can they call the game of their lives? And that's going to be a tall order. That's something different. I think this time around for these guys.
Well, because you know Eric Bieniemy as well as you do, obviously going back 30 plus years to your days at Colorado, right, and he's been through this process, so many times now. Has he told you before, like, how long does one interview take with a certain team? Are we talking like 30 minutes via Zoom, or is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? And then, You hit it out of the park there. Who knows how many opportunities you're going to have? So the thought is here, wait a second, I'm a coordinator right now, which is great. I can become a head coach. I have to nail this out. I got to hit a home run with this interview, so I got to be studying for that thing, maybe even more, put more time into this than I am for the game plan this week.
Absolutely. I mean, who knows how long these interviews go? I think if you're a team and you know these guys are in the playoffs, you're going to be cognizant of their time, right? You're not gonna take advantage of that situation because you know these guys are trying to prep for one of the biggest games of their lives right now. Especially, think about Slowick, think about Ben Johnson, like you mentioned. But the process is the process. I mean, I think from a distraction standpoint, I'm trying to put my shoes into their shoes in terms of as a player. Media distractions or family distractions or whatever distractions you can come up with. I mean, that's going to happen until game day, right? But can these guys handle it? I mean, that's the insight that I want to know. What's the experience of handling these type of distractions? Is there a think tank too? Like when Eric doesn't call the plays, you got Andy Reid calling the plays, right? Who's calling the plays up in Detroit if Ben Johnson doesn't have it? And Mike Holmgren, the same thing. If he wasn't calling plays, Mike Sherman was calling plays. I mean, you had guys in place to kind of take over if the play caller wasn't on top of their game. And I want to know that about Detroit. I want to know that about Slowick and certainly Houston in these situations with these coaches trying to be distracted with these interviews along the way.
Aaron Glenn's got 2 of them as well. That's another one. And I've thought about this all week, and I've gone back and forth. Is Detroit more likely to have a letdown? And everyone's celebrating them, what's going on there, and they're getting stopped, they're pulling their cars over, and people thanking them and hugging them? Or is the pressure off? They beat Stafford, they can relax now, and they can come out and play loose, know that they've exercised the demons and finally won a playoff game.
Yeah, Pauly, playing in the divisional round, there's no playing loose, man. Everything's tight out there. We played Washington in the regular season, and they blew our doors off. Right. And then when we get to the postseason playing Washington again at RFK, and they destroyed us again. If you're better than the other team, you're better than the other team. If you can execute better, then you're going to win. Right. I mean, that's what it boils down to at this point. I think everybody's going to feel the nerves. You're the only game on. It's the playoffs. It's to show it's a new season. And McCarthy and other coaches or other teams like that, they don't understand that it's not the extension of the regular season. This is an entirely new season when everything that you've done all year long is exposed right now. So you have to be different, and your playmakers have to step up. For me, making bets this week or this weekend, it's all about who has the playmakers that can step up and certainly be consistent on what they established last week.
Is it too many points then for the Lions to be laying here? 6.5?
Mitch, I think so, because I'm looking at Tampa on that side. I'm looking at Todd Bowles throwing the kitchen sink at Jared Goff, and we know what he's like under pressure. It's a great offensive line, though. Just going over some numbers, Jared Goff was sacked 30 times. I mean, their red zone is incredible percentage, over 60%. That's what you want to be in terms of scoring touchdowns. And that's what we focus in on as players. We got to be over 60% in the red zone scoring touchdowns. If we can do that, we got a great chance of not only making the playoffs, but making a run. And then they scored 41 touchdowns too. So I think the defense is what I question right now because you have Baker Mayfield playing his best football that he's played in a long, long time. A little nervous about the sack total and the lack of protection at times. The lack of strong running game for Tampa. But if Todd Bowles can create some turnovers, which I think Tampa needs to do, then that's when this game gets very, very interesting to me.
Why do you like Kansas City?
Well, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and everybody's making a big deal of being at home. And I get that. Patrick Mahomes, though, if these playoffs are about the quarterback, which I think they are, Patrick Mahomes is 74 and 22 in his career. And now Josh Allen 63 and 30, which is unbelievable too. But who has the better defense, right? And that saying that people say all the time, and defense wins championships and all that. The only reason why that's true is because we have limited amount of plays in the playoffs, and we have fewer possessions, right? And in every situation, Michael Lombardi has talked about this. Every situation in a game is vital. And who's going to handle that best? Who's going to move the ball on third down? Who's going to convert in short yardage? Who's going to convert in the red zone in terms of touchdowns? All the situational football aspects of the game, they're heightened, right? And I just think Kansas City has a chance to handle that better. And I think the experience of Patrick Mahomes will allow that to prevail in this one.
Okay.
Do you give either dog a puncher's chance tomorrow? Packers or in the early game, the Texans?
The Texans are intriguing because C.J. Stroud, I don't think people have understood or comprehended how great C.J. Stroud has been this year. And on top of that, how great DeMeco Ryans has been this year. First time ever, you had a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback win a division. I know they're up against Baltimore, and Baltimore's got a new offense. Baltimore has a quarterback that has not played in this game or these type of situations in a while, and certainly hasn't played at a high level. So I think mentally, if they can even out that game, they are overmatched. Baltimore's roster is incredible. They're overmatched that way. But if there's a puncher's chance, it's Houston to kind of disrupt Baltimore a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Yep. Is
it over for Alabama? They just they lost another guy, 5-star recruit, entered the portal.
Yeah. Pauly, I'm glad you asked this question because, I was reluctant about talking about this because I don't know if I'm going to get heat or not, but I don't care. I mean, who enjoyed the 4-team playoff more than Alabama, right? Nobody, because they had the most appearances, certainly the most championships. And I don't want to diminish Nick Saban at all because he's a GOAT. But if you talk about the structure of the playoff system or the 4-team system, and ESPN owning the playoff, it was all about Alabama in my mind. And if Alabama was Florida State and Alabama lost their their starting quarterback and yet they won their conference championship, they would have been in the playoffs, right? Of course. So and then all of a sudden Nick Saban has an exclusive interview after he retires on ESPN with Mr. No Hawk himself, Reese Davis, right? So. That's the inside joke. Reese Davis doesn't know about what the Hawk is.
I remember this. I was with you years ago. The
Absolutely.
Hawk,
yeah.
Can you explain quickly what it is?
Yeah, it's kind of like Lank. let a naysayer know. I asked. We were in Baltimore, right? And I asked him about the cold weather and the Hawk off the wind, off the water, and he was like, "The Hawk? What is the Hawk?" You know how he talks, right? I mean. It's kind of like a let a naysayer know, and I thought about that when he said that on air. But no, I think Alabama it's over because you can't recruit like Nick Saban did in that area of the country. I don't care who you are. DeBoer is a great coach, but my goodness, those athletes are going to look elsewhere.
All right, Pritch, great stuff, man. Good luck this weekend. Enjoy the games. Thank you for the time.
Hey, all right, no problem, guys. Good morning.
He mentioned something I thought that was a key comparison there that he brought up with Ben Johnson interviewing. I'll point that out along with in-pocket plays, what we're betting coming up next here on VSiN.
On coke if his girlfriend was not These games are a burial, a blowout, a human lock. You can bet your children's unborn children on these games.
I was so good that whenever I bet, I could change the odds for every bookmaker in the country.
All right, like Chernoff said, we're running out of games. And as James Hetfield says, sad but true. But this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm with you and Sal. This is the best weekend of the year with these 4 games. And the heavyweights coming off the bye, and then all the great stories here with Tampa, Houston, Love, and the Packers. Tampa +6. It touched 7 here yesterday, now 6.5. Really like Tampa here. 8-1 ATS this year on the road. And this whole Johnson-Glenn stuff with all the interviews, more we'll add onto that coming up. Every team to score a touchdown. Yes, -$2. Jordan Love, no interception, +125. C.J. Stroud, no interception, +125. Pat Mahomes, no interception, -110. League One tomorrow. Peterborough United, Shrewsbury Town over. 12 of the last 13 Peterborough matches have gone over 2.5. Let's do it again. Adding even more. Will there be points in every quarter of every game this weekend? Yes, plus 105.
Wow.
We will not have a scoreless quarter.
Oh, okay.
Too much firepower. No scoreless quarter. Chiefs.
I'll book that for you.
Okay. You think the price is dumb? You don't like the price?
No, I think we're going to have a scoreless quarter.
Okay. Chiefs are now showing 3 minus 120 at Caesars and William Hill. I'll take the Chiefs plus 3. Very concerned about the injuries with Buffalo and Josh Allen. And I'm not saying this is going to win, but it's mispriced. It's way too high. Will Hardy, coach of the Jazz, coach of the year, 25-1. Right now, they're in the play-in. They're 22-21. Golden State's a mess. The Rockets are going to fall out. They have a better record than the Lakers. If they make the playoffs, no one expected anything. Now, do they keep everyone at the deadline? I don't know. But that's the thing about Danny Ainge. He could throw you a curveball and maybe add pieces. You never know. Guy's a great coach. He's doing a great job. It's going to be hard to overcome Finch in Minnesota and Dagno in OKC, because they're going to win a lot of games and Minnesota might get the 1 seed. But if they can get like the 6 or the 7, it's too high. 25-1 Will Hardy, coach of the year. There you go.
They lost last night for the first time in 7 games.
Yeah.
Stepped a 6 game.
They've been on fire. OKC with a nice performance.
Yeah, that OKC had to have that.
Yep.
It's because it's a crazy West Coast road trip for them. And they were favored by, that number came down, by the way, a little bit. I think I saw 4 down to 3, and Shea was awesome last night. They won the game up. NHL last night, Predators, money line plus 136 when we grabbed it during the show yesterday. That was a nice winner last night in hockey. Here's what we're going with this weekend as we move forward, a bunch of bets. We've broken this down now twice in the last 2 days. Josh Allen to throw an INT, yes, minus 109, as high as minus 130. Shop around, better prices are out there. Again, he's 14-4 to the over this year. I broke down all the turnover-worthy plays from him. It's who he is. It's what he does. The Chiefs, though, only 8 INTs on the season, but I think he'll be putting that ball in spots where the Chiefs can pick it off this weekend. K-Dot and over 20.5 receiving yards. Broke this one down. Going back, the tight ends that the Lions have allowed that many receiving yards to over the last 5 games. Some of the names, incredible. And 2 teams have had 2 different tight ends hit this number in the last 4 weeks. And only 6 other catches have gone to tight ends not named K-Dot in the entire year for the Buccaneers. Like him over 28.5. This ties into Baker Mayfield. I played an alternate passing yards prop with him, 275 yards plus at plus 148. I think Kelsey's going to eat this weekend, specifically due to the injuries on that Bills defense. Adam Chernoff, great breakdown 40 minutes ago, saying which guys he expects to miss for Buffalo. If that all comes in, old Mr. Reliable here. And Kelsey has great numbers against the Buffalo Bills going back every time they played. Available over 16.5 minus 125. I played an alt number with him, 70 plus receiving yards at plus 132. Buccaneers plus the 6.5 against the Lions. I think this Lions defense, I know people, you brought this up a couple of times. The Buccaneers down the stretch couldn't score until late against the Saints, did nothing against the Panthers. Mm-hmm. Also, Baker was banged up, certainly in that Panthers game. But to me, the Lions defense is closer to the Eagles and the Packers defense that Baker shredded at Lambeau a few weeks ago than they are to the Saints or the Panthers. And this team looked great last week. I get it. The Eagles quit, maybe laid down in that game specifically when it was over with. But Lions defense, no great shake. Should have lost last weekend to Matthew Stafford and the Rams. So I'm on the Buccaneers plus the points in that game. And I think that's all she wrote.
Yep, I think it's a 24-21 final. That Detroit game.
With an under, huh?
Yes.
Now, I'd like to tell you to wait until it gets to 7. I don't know if it's going to get there again. So, evidently, it touched 7 here last night at Circa for a little while.
Start your morning with a daily dose of winning strategies, insider tips, and the latest buzz with the free VSiN Daily newsletter. Expert analysis, latest odds delivered straight to your inbox, absolutely free. VSiN.com/newsletter to subscribe. Mike was excellent also on the Alabama talk. I'm surprised this is happening. because Saban said, I'm still going to be involved. I'm going to have an office. I'm going to talk to you guys, and they're leaving left and right. I am also surprised that the offensive players are leaving. With DeBoer's offense, you're going to put up ridiculous numbers. But they're saying it's Saban, and I want out of here. And
that's the reason why they went there.
That's the bidding. Let the insanity begin. Take care of me, NIL, and I'm leaving.
I thought the alums there at Alabama would have stepped their games up with the NIL money and said, don't leave. Here's more cash.
No kidding. Right.
Yeah.
Kind of, maybe DeBoer didn't expect that either. And Bill O'Brien is now the new OC at Ohio State.
Right. Let me give you this. I just tweeted this out as well at Mitch Moss Radio on X. Adam Burke does a tremendous job here for us at the network. Writing on the website, the shows that he pops on, his breakdown of Reba McEntire singing the national anthem. First of all, I did not realize, I don't even know how old she is. I didn't look it up. I didn't realize she looks great for her age, whatever that number might be. I have no idea. But she did the national anthem at the National Finals Rodeo in 1974. Can you believe that? We weren't even born yet.
No. They clock it?
71 seconds. These are on YouTube.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's really low. It's just in like 88 seconds?
Yeah, I think it opened up 84 and a half and it got shot up.
Yeah.
So that was a long time ago, 71 seconds. Also, she came back in 1978. And she dragged out the last note with Brave. And so it lasted about 20, 25 seconds longer than it could have. 80 seconds overall.
I'll be the first to know. I got a guy on the inside.
Well, more on that coming up in a second.
Yeah.
1984 National Finals Rodeo. 78 seconds by Adams count.
Jeez.
1985 World Series Game 1. What a series.
It's like Mike Ditka singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. It's seventh inning stretch.
I know.
Yeah, I want to. Okay. Get out of here.
65 seconds.
What?
I'm going to have to listen to that one.
This can't be.
So it's all over the map. She has other various national anthems that she's performed. There was one in 2017 that lasted about 80 seconds. That was at a Celebrity Hope softball game. Now, talking about the national anthem is very tricky for the Super Bowl. So I don't know how many people now have access to it. And I think the limits for this too. For most people, it's been drastically cut down. I can't even say in half. I want to say that they're very small limits. Some people might have access to.
Well, it gets out the day before.
Sure.
I mean, it used to be more early morning, like Saturday. Now it's been Friday, and the information gets out when they do the dry run and everything.
Now, this goes back. This was early on in the VSiN days. You and I, same guy, right? Somebody on the inside would tell us down to the second. We had it just nailed. And I said this on the air. I forget which year it was.
What are they wearing? Are they holding the mic? Is it on a stand? Everything.
I had more on the national anthem prop for the Super Bowl than I bet on any individual game that entire year. And I was able to bet with nice limits, clearly. Alternate numbers as well were available. And I bet every single one of them as much as I could. I maxed out. And it came down, the national anthem, the exact second that we were given to that, that's exactly what it lasted.
That was beautiful.
And then that reporter, like in Orlando, went out, and while they're doing the rendition, he clocked it, and it's like, okay, what are you doing?
Yep, school's out. You were going to say something about what Mike said about Ben Johnson. I could talk about this for an hour.
Yes.
Because the guy has to prep. It's the biggest interview of his life. These things could go 2-3 hours. He has to be ready for these 4 interviews.
His comparison was Eric Bieniemy with the Chiefs. Well, how many times did they do that?
Yeah.
With Eric Bieniemy.
That's right.
Over the years, so they got used to it.
I got Andy Reid.
And you got Andy Reid, and you got Patrick Mahomes. So the Chiefs were just fine. This is the first year the Lions have done. They're going.
And they're in Glenn, too.
Right. To win back-to-back playoff games, first time since the 50s, to win a game in the playoffs. So it's maybe a totally different animal. You never know.
It's bizarre.
Yep. Solid week of shows. Today flew by. If you missed any of it, you can search Follow the Money wherever you get your podcasts. Crush it this weekend, and we'll see you on Monday morning at 7 a.m. See you.